At Montgomery Blair High School, we have over 2,800 students and 191 staff members. Sometimes it can be very difficult for teachers to adhere to the needs of all students. And likewise, it can be very difficult for students to adhere to the needs of their teachers. With this large population, sometimes teachers may forget that the voice of their students matter. And students definitely need to take into consideration the pedagogical desires of their teachers. This video will take a very broad look at what some students feel about their classrooms and what some teachers feel about their role in education. First, we're going to start off with the students.
If there was like one thing about a teacher that like a characteristic or a trait about that teacher that's like most important to you, what would it be?
I would say maybe just be enthusiastic about what you're teaching. I mean, if you choose to teach a certain subject, and then obviously you like it, so make sure you portray that you like it. So
I think I would really like to find humor in a teacher, even if the teacher is strict, which they can be and sometimes should be, because a lot of teachers are a little bit too lax. I still think that teachers should have a sense of humor and be able to take a joke or laugh with the kids, because it creates a more personal level.
Yeah, I mean, if a teacher's really bored all day, then the lesson probably won't be as exciting as if a teacher was excited to teach you and stuff.
You want a teacher who's like, you know, relaxed, you know, not as high.
Just kind of chill and like go with the flow, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, alright.
They gotta be lively, you know, they can't be dry and boring. They gotta be energetic about what they do, because if they're boring, then I'm not gonna be interested. So they gotta want to make me interested. The way they talk, their mannerisms, whatever activities we're doing, it has to be something that's, you know, that's real active, because otherwise it's not gonna keep my attention.
To just be generally wanting to help and find out what's wrong with the student. So say like you have a whole class of children, right? And you have one student who has a bad grade, and you go over to that student and ask them, how can I help you get your grade up, you know? Even though that's not their job to like want to force people to do work, even if they like went out and just kept asking, kept actually motivating the child to do work, that would be one of the things I would want. Because when I was in 9th grade and 10th grade, you know, I didn't really want to be in school, and I wasn't motivated to be in school, and it took me a while to actually figure out why I wanted to be in school, why I wanted to pursue the careers that I'm pursuing now. And I didn't get that from a teacher. So if I got that from a teacher, it would be easier for me to do all my work, because I'd be like, okay, I know somebody wants to help me, and I can get that hand, you know, that extra hand.
But do you ever feel like that you're not like, you're being taught to the exam? Do you feel like you're missing some other things if teachers were just like straight out teaching you without an exam?
Well, I mean, some teachers try to teach stuff outside of the curriculum, but it's not really like, most of the teachers, they try to teach exactly what's be on the exam. They might skip over a few things that's extra and just tell us what we're going to do for the exam. They teach for the test. But some teachers do try to teach us stuff outside of the curriculum, which is pretty interesting.
And which do you prefer?
I prefer when they try to teach us outside.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that way I'm really, you know, learning something that matters. Like the little details outside of the curriculum, they can, that separates me from the crowd. The more I know about a certain subject will probably help me later on in life, as opposed to just knowing what everybody else learned.
In some classes, yes, but in other classes, no. But I think that usually if it's not based on the exam, it's still easy and doable.
Yeah, for the most part. Some exams can be a lot harder than what you learn in class, but it all depends on what your teacher taught you. If they taught it correctly, I think it should all be on the exam.
For the most part. There's some stuff kind of iffy, but it's mostly how you review. They give you review stuff that's super hard, and the test seems super easy. But if you review stuff that's super easy, then the test seems super hard because it's harder than what you did before.
Do you think your teachers pick favorites, or like really dislike one student or mean to that person at all?
No, I don't think so. Like,
you don't think that happens?
Most definitely. I know some teachers who favor kids a lot. Like they'll have that one kid they always speak to, when they always like talk to first, and explain everything to them, and because they know, well, those are usually the kids who actually do the work in class. So that's probably why they would favor somebody over another.
I don't really think that's a problem. Maybe more so in middle school, but high school now, I don't think they pick favorites. They don't make it obvious. Some people will say that they do, but that's never happened to me, so I can't say that.
Certain teachers do it more than others. Like certain teachers just prefer one kind of person, and then certain teachers just kind of randomly pick, and then their favorites change over the semester, but they show more favorites.
And what was the other thing you asked me?
Why do you think like some teachers are really mean to specific students?
I think only if they have a reason to be mean, because like as I said, the student might not be doing their work, or they might not be listening, or they're talking while the teacher's talking, and that may aggravate them because they have to focus on that one child instead of focus on the whole class, and that takes away from the learning process.
Do teachers encourage you to come in after school or at lunch, to get extra help?
Yeah, for the most part they do. They always say like if you're messing up, come lunch or after school. And those teachers are usually nicer about it. Like nicer about kind of taking away their own time to help you.
Most of my teachers encourage us to come in after school if we're having trouble.
And does that help a lot?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you have to retake a test, it's nice to come in after school and study with the teacher or with other kids.
Yeah, I think most teachers are always willing to help, and students should respect their time because they have a lot to do, but a lot of teachers find the time to help students, and that's really great.
Some teachers do, not many others put emphasis on it. They let you know that they're available, but it's only a few teachers that really encourage it, in my opinion. They'll tell me, I could really help you after school. Come at this time, you have any questions about this, they'll, talk to me one-on-one. If I'm doing bad in some area, they'll be like, you could come in for help. So, they make it available, and I appreciate for them for that. And it does, encourage me to want to go in after school or come in at lunchtime or whatever, outside of class.
It makes you want to work harder and do better.
Yeah, because it shows that they care.
Do you think it's important to have a good friendship with your teacher? Not necessarily a friendship, but a good working relationship with your teacher?
Yeah, because if you have a bad relationship, then like if at one point you need help, or at one point that the teacher needs help from you, then it just doesn't happen if you guys don't have that like good relationship. So it is important.
Yeah, definitely. The atmosphere is better, the motivation is higher.
I make myself close to my teacher, whether they're mean or not, but I just do that because I feel like I can learn better if I have a closer relationship with them. And some kids just don't feel like doing that, but I just take that little 5 minutes to talk to them after class just to see where their head at.
Now, let's take some time to ask teachers a few questions.
Do students seek help after school, at lunch, or in academic support?
I would like to hope that the majority of my students came in when they needed it, but the reality is, I think on average every year, it's a small minority of kids that do a combination of coming in for help and coming in for help in a timely manner. I think the kids that come in for retakes of quizzes and stuff like that, they think that's support, and that's not.
The majority of my students who need help, it's a mixed bag. Most of the students prefer to come in at lunch, but I'm only available during 6th period lunch. So there are a large number of students who come in during 6th period, but there are also a large number that come in after school as well.
Well, my academic support is during lunch, so most of my students will come during lunch if they need it. They are able to get a more one-on-one session with me during academic support. That will help them.
Sadly, no. I do get some students who come by. I'm actually available at both lunches. I don't have a lunchtime class, and I'm here every day after school, but it's a pretty small number.
There are a great number of people who won't come in. You practically have to twist arms and threaten to call parents to get some of the students in. But even those students, once they come in, it seems as though they realize it's not as bad as they thought, and it's much more helpful than they thought it would be. And sometimes they come in again.
The major issue that I focus on with students year in and year out is getting clarity. You know, if you sit there quietly, I don't always know whether you get it, and the only way I find out is a lot of times when I test or give a quiz, and by then it's, you know, it's too late. I need to know whether you know, and the best way to do that is to actually sit down with me and sort of talk our way through it.
What would one characteristic of an ideal student be for you?
Hard worker who asks questions when they don't understand something.
An ideal student would be one that comes in just to make sure that they are on track, especially if they have a problem. But unfortunately, that's not the norm. Most students, they try to struggle through the class, and then once it's done, they say, wow, I'm glad that's over. And they don't want any reminders of what they just went through, so they don't come in.
You know, my ideal student would be a student who, you know, is driving their education.
Just purpose, you know. I don't care if you like your English class, your chemistry class, whatever, but you should have a purpose every morning you wake up, and just know that you're not doing any of the song and dance for your parents or for your teachers. It's all about you. So I think that makes things a lot more digestible if you know why you're doing the hard work you're doing.
But I think that it's important for, you know, students to realize that this is preparation for their lives and that they need this information. It's not just something that we're spewing out just to ruin their lives, but it's something that is helpful for their lives.
Do the majority of your students pay attention, and are they focused?
Yes, the majority of my students pay attention in class, and they are focused with some assistance, of course, but I think left to their own vices, there would probably be about a 80% participation rate, but that other 20 you know, some will have their heads down, some are doing work from another class, but you know, that's one of the jobs of a teacher, is to be vigilant and make sure that students who are sleeping are awakened, and those who are doing other assignments, usually they're copying another student's assignments, that you know, that we're on that. So
I can't say majority, but I'm pretty pleased with the kids this year being focused. But you know, just because you're looking at a teacher doesn't necessarily mean you're really, you know, metacognitively processing what's going on. So that's a smaller minority.
Yes and no. I've been teaching at Blair a long time, 24 years, and I taught back in the old days when we saw every class every day. So it was a 45-minute period. I think with the block schedule, for some students that's fine, and they're able to sit through a 90-minute class and stay pretty focused, etc., and be pretty productive. But I think for a lot of other students, that's just a long time, and they almost can't, you know, no matter what you do and how many activities you have in class, they sort of wax and wane throughout the class.
What kind of teaching methods and styles are most effective for you?
My most effective styles, I think that students love group work, the ability to work with other classmates. Students love videos. They like to be able to watch and be entertained. But I think that the most effective is group work, and then answering select problems for them, just to demonstrate and make sure that they're on track.
So one thing I do like to do, and I think I've incorporated more of this year, where I have the students do like gallery walks, basically where they'll have problems. I'll have the answers on the board. And it seems that a lot of students will work on the problems, and they will actually refer to the board to see if they did get it right. So if they didn't, they'll either consult their classmates or myself. So getting them more involved in their learning seems to be a very useful tool for them.
Well, I feel very strongly classroom management and discipline comes before instruction, and so I definitely feel whenever I'm more structured, more disciplined, not necessarily mean, I think the kids respond to it no matter how I choose to teach. And then unfortunately, I do a lot of direct instruction in chemistry just because we have so much to cover. Not everybody likes that, but you know, having structure and then also making kids be active, not just flipping through a PowerPoint, but they have to write, they have to process. That's good.
Do you like it when a student develops a good working relationship with you?
Yeah, I mean, every year I kind of connect with a couple kids. I never know in the beginning of the year who it's going to be, but I definitely love having those kinds of relationships with kids. But on the other hand, it's not a requisite to have this bond with your teacher to learn from them, and I do hear that a lot from kids. I don't like my teacher, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think that teaching is a relationship formed with a student, and that relationship goes best when there is some common ground or that's been established, and it helps the student to feel closer to the teacher and vice versa. And I think that when a student can sympathize with me and they say, oh, you know what, this may be boring, but because Mr. Scott is my friend, I'm going to pay attention. And when a teacher says, you know what, I like this kid, I'm going to, let me show this to you, let me point this out. And, I think that relationship, once it's nurtured, the better it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think a lot of students view teachers as us against them, when in reality it's quite the opposite. We're here for them. We're here to try to facilitate their education, and I think once a student gets that, it's very powerful, because they'll access you more. They'll realize that you can help them. And again, your first question, which is, do students tend to come and see you? Not that often, and that's because they don't realize how important and how helpful it is if they do establish that relationship. And as much as we try, some of it has to come from them. The student has to make that effort, and then everything opens up.
As you can hear from these interviews, there are lots of different opinions. But if we collaborate with each other and understand that students and teachers can create a thriving environment for learning, we can try to make school a more enjoyable experience. Thanks for watching, and take a look at the other videos on the BNC website at www.bnc.mbhs.edu or www.silver-lens.org.